this is also the other side of the story that's really funny, because she goes, oh, dude, you guys need to shut the fuck up about the emotional appeal of dead Palestinian children that your tax dollars are contributing to. And what you should instead feel is the emotional appeal to Israeli society. You should feel emotional about Israelis. Why are you feeling emotional about Palestinians? Think about the poor Israelis. That's what this argument revolves around. What I find really funny about the whole, Israel Hasbara situation in a sea of horrifying things that Israel is doing is that their Hasbara operations have gotten have ended up with like hiring a bunch of Christian people to defend Israel, and I think part of that is because it's going to be really hard to find the same angle with like you're going to have Rabbi Shmuley, right? But nobody likes him, and he is breeding anti-Zionists every time he fucking goes out and speaks, right? But also, you need the I guess Christian populations to also not feel anti-Israel. So the people that they've been fucking hiring to do this work is like Brianna Wu, which is a repulsive individual, right? Like, she is repulsive. She is horrible. So we'll start off with the Hasbara side of things real quick. I do want to cover that really quickly. Obviously, we talked about Brianna Poo. She sucks. She's ass. She's awful. She's very dumb. You got the Douglas Murrays. Of the world, who is like a British guy who is not particularly intelligent, but at least like is a mercenary. And Americans respond, I guess, to British people more positively than they do. They respond more positively to British people. They think British people are like intellectual, I guess. There's also this other chick on TikTok that's been going viral, talking about how killing children is emotionally emotion inducing, but like you shouldn't actually feel some type of way about Israel because they're killing children. And I want to see if you guys have that one. This is the lady, I think. Or no, not this lady. No. This is not what I'm talking about. No, I'm not talking about this lady. Hi, I'm Jewish. Asking people to stop murdering children is never anti-Semitic. Hope this helps. Wow, you might want to rethink your statement. That's not who I'm talking about. Yeah, the girl that I'm talking about is also not Jewish. This is yet another, like, I think Israel with their Hasbara operations is like desperately looking for fresh-faced Christian pro-Israel talking spokespersons, because they think that this will make an impact in the marketplace amongst, like, I guess, people who are not Jewish. Yeah, here it is. I may not be Jewish, but I know emotional manipulation when I see it. Gen Z has been tricked into thinking that seeing graphic images of war automatically makes a war unjust. That's not true. It's never been true. Felix says, first sentence of his post made me double over. No, this is unironically her argument, chat. This is literally her argument. This is what she's been saying, okay? This is what she's been saying over and over again. And it turns out she's literally hired as an evangelical Zionist to do propaganda for Israel. Like, she works for a pro-Israel, like Israel propaganda operation, from what I understand. And it's really funny because no matter how much money you dump into this process, like, you are not going to be able to overcome the endless amount of child murder that has been live streamed every single day. You can't do a baby Holocaust and then fucking act like people don't see it, or try to punish people for seeing it. All right? That's it. It's fucking ridiculous. It doesn't work that way, okay? It does not work that way at all. Look who's here. Right on cue. It's little lady. Down. Little lady. All right.
Just because you see images of dead children, as disgusting and frustrating and upsetting as it is, does not automatically make a war unjust.
I'm gonna say it. Just because you are getting the bag in and you are receiving crumbs of attention on the internet for spreading your abhorrent propaganda does not make it acceptable. Because in this video, this person basically admits that they work for the Israeli government.
And for the last 4 years, I've worked in some capacity for my full-time job in the Israel education ad.
Bro, this is Hasbara. She literally does Hasbara for Israel. She's an evangelical Zionist who is paid by the Israeli state to do Israel propaganda. Okay. Now, let me tell you something. The entire purpose of what she's doing is to try to get other evangelical Zionists, to get other evangelical Christians to be pro-Israel. Okay. At a time when there is like unprecedented negativity surrounding Israel for its live streamed child holocaust that it is doing to the Palestinian population. Yeah, she is supported by El Al, and she's a member of the Christian Students for Israel, funded by the Hobby Lobby. These people are fucking insane, okay? They are dumb. They are insane. They are unsuccessful. It's not going to work. This propaganda operation is bunk, because the more effective propaganda operation here, far before all of this kind of Hasbara, all of this kind of advocacy, was to simply hit the anti-Semitism line. Oh, you don't fuck with Israel? Boom, you're anti-Semitic. Sorry. Now every fucking media outlet is going to actually run hit pieces on you, calling you a fucking anti-Semite. Now it doesn't work that way. It's gone. That tool is out, okay? This is a very sophisticated, very pervasive influence peddling operation that no longer fucking works because of the overwhelming amount of death and destruction that Israel has caused, that everyone can fucking see, okay? That everyone can see with their own two eyes. But I find it funny when there are still people who try to do this shit.
An advocacy space.
They say that they've been working within the Israel advocacy space, but you only have 30,000 followers. You're not generating your own income. You are being paid by the Israeli government, or at least an NGO or an organization that is adjacent to it. And you sit there and act as if it is the photos and images on the internet that are made to manipulate people's emotions, rather than the fact that the state that you support is currently paying people like you, white Westerners who appeal to people's Christianity, to spread nonsense like this so that Israel can commit crimes. It is in no way normal or acceptable to go on the internet every day and make rubbish like this so you can support a state which is currently starving 2 million people, which is currently trying to wipe away 2 million people's history and culture with the express goal of expelling them and never allowing them to return to their own lands. She says that she's getting a master's degree in genocide studies, but how dare you make videos like this if you really are? Because surely you must see that there are an incredible amount of experts who are referring to what Israel is doing as genocide. And under the vast majority of definitions, even Raphael Lemkin, the man who coined its definition, that Israel is perpetrating genocide. This is shameful, disgusting behavior.
There's a part 2 as well, which is crazy. Let's take a look.
Every single one of these creators has this grand conspiracy theory that I'm either secretly undercover a Jew or I work for the Israeli government.
No one thinks you're secretly undercover a Jew. Everyone knows that you are an evangelical Zionist. You're an evangelical Christian who is working for a most likely Knesset grant recipient organization that is probably privately owned by some fucking freakazoid Christians that are directly doing advocacy, also known as Hasbara, okay, for the state of Israel. You are a Hasbara agent. That is your job. That is literally on your fucking LinkedIn. And the only reason why it's on your LinkedIn, the only reason why it's openly a part of your CV, but you're still trying to advocate against it, is because in the past when someone said, oh, I work for an advocacy organization for Israel, people wouldn't look at that and go, that's weird. Why are you doing that? People would never say that. That's why people could openly say, I do advocacy work for Israel in the past. But now when you say that, they go, ugh, that's gross. That's the only reason why you have to deny these claims. For the longest fucking time, when you worked for a company like this, passagesisrael.org, it didn't matter. You could just openly say like, oh no, I'm doing advocacy. My advocacy initiatives are about telling American Christian evangelicals to go to Israel and to fund the settlement operations in the West Bank, which are illegal, by the way. Okay? You were allowed to do this. This actually helped your career, as a matter of fact. It still kind of helps your career because there's still a lot of moneyed interest involved in this process, but it no longer helps your outlook amongst the regular population, civilians, normies, when they hear you doing advocacy, paid advocacy for the apartheid state that is doing a genocide, Israel, everyone goes, ew, gross, don't do that. You're a freak, which is understandable. I think it's very understandable.
I'm not, and I don't, but LOL if you're watching.
You know, when you post things on the internet, you should be very careful about what other information can easily be found out about you with just a simple search. Because, you know, you misleadingly edited my original video. Because what I actually said is you either worked for the Israeli government or you worked for an NGO that was adjacent to the Israeli government. And who do you work for? Who do you work for? Passages Israel, a Christian evangelical NGO which spends money bringing young Christians over to Israel to turn them into nasty little propagandists like you, who spend their time explaining why children dying is moral and just. You claim that you don't think it is, but yet you go on about how the war is just in this video.
I'm sorry, I take it back. No, I will actually say it again. Just because you see graphic images of children does not make a war unjust. Notice how I didn't say that the killing of children is something to be glorified or praiseworthy. Notice how I never said that it's not a tragedy. Notice how I never said that you shouldn't weep for the loss of innocent children's lives. Somewhere along the way, a lot of people started confusing emotional pain with moral judgment. They started believing that if a war produces suffering, if there are horrifying images, if there are children caught in the crossfire, or if it seems like one side is suffering more than the other, then that means the war itself must be unjust. And that is not true. That's never been true. The nature of war is that innocent...
Is she brain dead? Yes. She's evil. She's evil and brain dead. She's just a bad person. She is literally a demonic agent, okay? It is fucking crazy. And the things that are coming out of her mouth are so psychotic and so demonic that the average person, when they hear stuff like this, probably experiences whiplash. Okay, when someone starts off the conversation by saying, listen, people need to stop obsessing over dead children, you're like, okay, what are you, Satan? What the fuck do you mean people need to stop obsessing over the who? I've never encountered a person in my fucking life that has ever actually made a take like that, and then that didn't like dramatically cause a rift in our relationship permanently. Okay, if I hear that in the real world, if someone were to say those words in the real world, okay, that like dead children is emotional manipulation, let's be logical about this, I would go, oh my God, you are a villain, okay? You are such a fucking villain. You are the biggest villain I have ever encountered in my life, okay? It's so villainous that most people, most villains in works of fiction don't even say these things. But according to grifters online like Chris Kunstler, I enjoy the killing of babies and I'm funded by the Israeli government. This is good news to me. However, I would like to read the record to reflect that I would gladly accept the sponsor from El Al.
People suffer.
You think starving 2 million people is just. You think expelling 2 million people is just. You think wiping away the social life of 2 million people is just. No, that's genocide, and you should know that. But because just today, many experts in the field of genocide studies came out and said, yeah, what Israel is doing is genocide. There is no other way to look at it. There are only people like you who wish to use their education to spread lies on the internet so more killing can happen.
Most of the people talking about this kind of stuff online don't actually have a personal connection to the war. They don't have a friend that they know personally or a family member who is living in the region. They have never had to check a casualty list for a name that they might recognize. And the most productive conversations that I have had about the current war have been with people who
This is also the other side of the story that's really funny, because she goes, oh, dude, you guys need to shut the fuck up about the emotional appeal of dead Palestinian children that your tax dollars are contributing to. And what you should instead feel is the emotional appeal to Israeli society that gets to have bunkers that they can run into and gets to live a normal fucking life every day on the backdrop of a genocide that American weapons are contributing to. You should feel emotional about Israelis. Why are you feeling emotional about Palestinians? It's like, think about the poor Israelis. That's what this argument revolves around. It's not about emotional appeal. She's not like trying to do this hardcore logical perspective. She's just saying, I don't like that you are feeling emotional and recognize the humanity of Palestinian children that are being fucking killed with bunker buster bombs. Okay? You should feel way worse about Israelis that have, marketing jobs and eat the nastiest hummus you've ever heard and listen to the worst fucking psytrance music you've ever fucking heard, while there is literally an open air prison that has turned into an open air concentration camp with American weapons 40 fucking miles away. That's literally it. They're like, no, feel bad for the Israelis. Why the fuck won't you feel bad for the Israelis? Why would anybody feel bad for the Germans living in fucking Nazi Germany? Sorry, it doesn't work that way. You can't educate people on the Holocaust and then expect people to turn around and go, yeah, I realize that this kind of mechanized murder is actually really evil, but now that Israel is doing it, now I think it's actually good. Like, it doesn't work that way. People know right from wrong. A really unique bind. Yeah, poor SS officers suffering from PTSD. Poor Waffen SS, dude. It's just like, they felt so bad as they were fucking slaughtering villages, entire villages, and wiping them out in Eastern Europe. Like, why won't anybody think about their perspective? Why would anybody think about their feelings? Like, this is crazy. It's not gonna fucking work. It's so overwhelming. The death and destruction is so overwhelming that Americans that are normally preconditioned due to the war on terror narratives to literally always assume that if there is a brown Arab that is being slaughtered, they probably deserve it. That American society has completely flipped on the issue of Israel. After decades and decades of concerted propaganda efforts and a complex influence peddling operation, those Americans have finally said, oh my God, this is so unacceptable. Think about that. This is why I always say, like, if the media legitimately covered the issue, because right now you're hearing the media finally cover Israel with a critical lens. They're no longer using neutrality, and it's rather suspicious. It almost feels like a permission structure has been opened up within Western media due to maybe America's State Department interests or something. I don't know what it is. And you're finally hearing the media cover this stuff as though, like, Israel blew up a hospital. Israel lied about blowing up a hospital or the reasons as to why it blew up a hospital. And while that's happening, I've maintained the position that if the Western media across the board offered this level of warranted criticism to Israel's actions, 90% of the Western world would be openly pro-Hamas, okay? Not just like, I'm not talking like, oh, they would say, Palestinians deserve life and liberty. I'm talking like they would actively be petitioning a coalition of the willing to forcibly invade Tel Aviv to put a stop to Israel's Nazi activities. Because the very fact that the media has still tried to maintain this neutrality in the way that they cover Israel's sheer and utter brutality against the entirety of the Palestinian population, okay? In spite of that, you have an entire sea change amongst the ranks of Westerners who look at the situation dramatically differently from a very different perspective. I'm telling you, if they were covering it this critically from the start, they would have a way, way, way different approach. You are way underestimating Islamophobia, man. No, dude. No, dude, look at the polls, man. Look at the polls. I'm not underestimating Islamophobia. What I'm saying is, in spite of that Islamophobia, Americans still are going, yeah, maybe you've killed too many fucking babies, dude. Stop. Think about that. Like, that's my point. My point is, in spite of the unimaginable amount of Islamophobia demonstrated by the broader Western societies as a direct consequence of endless amounts of social conditioning and training from every orifice of the media to justify the war on terror since 9/11, Americans are still looking at Israel and looking at Palestine in a very different way. After 19 months of endless live-streamed child holocaust, Americans are like, I don't fuck with this. Fuck Israel. Do you think there's a chance of changing someone's minds like that, ladies? No, that's an enemy. That is not someone whose mind is supposed to be changed. This person is an enemy, an ideological enemy, an enemy of the truth. Her entire job is to do propaganda for money. That's entirely different. You're not supposed to. You have to pick your targets appropriately. You have to pick your targets that you have a direct relationship with. Okay, you can actually get people. You can actually walk people down this ledge that they're on with ease. Okay, by showing them the truth. But someone like this person, who gives a fuck about what their perspective is? They're getting a check. You can't convince someone to maintain a separate position when their livelihood relies on them maintaining the position that they have. You can't convince them of that. You can just pay them more, maybe, get Qatar on the line, get Qatar to fucking give her money, and maybe she'll fucking swap teams. But we're not talking about convincing someone like this. We're talking about convincing people that might have encountered her idiotic commentary and might have been duped by her idiotic commentary.
Actually have lived through it. People in Israel and the West Bank and in Gaza. Not random internet personalities who are on here grifting for cash.
And this isn't some random thing for me, and nor is it a money spinner. I made videos long before October the 7th. I have 2 degrees in this. I have studied the Middle East. I have spent time around many Palestinians who, unlike your Israeli friends who you say you're upset about because they're in the IOF, well, my friends just live in Palestine.
Invited to a dinner with a bunch of lone soldiers. How freaking sweet is that?
And that's the difference between you and I. When I say I've got friends from the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and also East Jerusalem and 48 Palestine, they're not soldiers. And you have the audacity to make out as if I am the one making bank off suffering. No, 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 no. I had always wanted to work in this space because I knew that young people like me from the West didn't understand Palestine because of organizations like yours who try and trick us into believing that Israel is doing just and moral things. And so what I did was I started making videos. And now I'm able to share the years and years that I spent studying Palestine to a far grander audience than if I was writing papers.
Oh, man.